My name's Dr. Herring. I'm with the Optimistic Curmudgeon, and today I'm going to be responding to woke TikToks.
You're only an atheist because you enjoy living a life of sin. If I wanted to live a life of sin, I'd just be a Christian.
What?
I'm sorry, what? If being sinful was a passion of mine, it would make the most sense for me to be a Christian. I could do whatever I want and then just ask for forgiveness in the end. That's not how being a Christian works. Okay, how does it work? You can't just ask to be forgiven all the time if you don't actually mean it. Okay, then I would make sure I meant it. Okay, but if you're gonna keep being sinful, but I thought everyone was a sinner. Well, yeah, we all fall short, but... So then if I enjoyed being a sinner, it would make the most sense for me to be a Christian, because Jesus sacrificed himself for my salvation. Well, not your salvation, because you don't believe in him. Right, because I'm an atheist, and I don't participate in the whole sin construct. That's a Christian thing. Being an atheist doesn't mean that you don't sin. I mean, as a Christian, you're free to consider the things I do a sin, I guess. That's a you thing.
All right, this is going on pretty long, so I'm just going to go and stop that.
Yeah!
All right, I have two things for this. First off, the Apostle Paul predicted this and said in the book of Romans that if you've received grace, you should not sin, so the grace should abound. The other thing I just want to hit on this is that it's kind of silly to say that you don't sin because you're not a Christian. That's just silly. The idea of sin isn't something that happens just because you agree that God exists and you violated his nature. Instead, it has to do with everything what you do. So the guy in this TikTok is maintaining that he doesn't sin because he doesn't believe in God. He's not actually denying the claims of Christian theology that everybody who has ever told a lie has sinned. Everyone who's ever felt anger in his or her heart has sinned. Everybody who's ever felt wrongful desire for somebody not his or her spouse has sinned. So this really is ultimately just kind of silly.
Okay!
It's ignoring the actual understanding of sin and pretending that that really just doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next video.
You're atheist.
I am.
And you don't believe in an afterlife.
I don't.
If you don't believe in heaven and hell and all that, why don't you just go around raping and murdering as much as you want?
I do.
What?
I do go around raping and murdering as much as I want, which is not at all.
Because he's got a conscience.
But if death is just the end, what's the point?
What's the point in what?
Living. Might as well just kill yourself.
So if you're watching a movie and you're really enjoying it, something with Kevin Hart in,
Yeah.
and someone points out that this will end eventually, do you just go, oh, forget it then, what's the point, and just turn it off?
No, because I can watch it again.
Well, I think life is precious because you can't watch it again. I mean, you can believe in an afterlife if that makes you feel better. Doesn't mean it's true. But once you realise you're not going to be around forever, I think that's what makes life so magical.
All right, first off, this TikTok has a weird voice. I have a really hard time imagining that this clearly female speaker has this deep of a voice naturally. Something weird is going on here. This is some kind of odd voiceover. Also, love the Irish brogue of the questioner. Secondly, this teenager has clearly drunk deeply of the existential nihilism well, which is really unfortunate because that's causing her to miss the goodness of life. She's maintaining that the whole point of life is that it's unrepeatable and you should just have as many experiences in this life as possible. Unfortunately, that means that she's actually going to rob herself of the real joy of living life well. This particular young lady really ought to just read some Aristotle. That would help a lot.
Oh, you're gonna pray for me? That's so sweet. I'll pray for you too.
To the Dark Lord Satan.
Get you some blessings.
Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for
A bit about modern Satanists. They're mostly not really serious, which is what you can really see in this particular TikTok. She doesn't really believe in Satan. She doesn't really believe in blessing. If she did believe in Satan, she would understand that Satan is actually the negation of blessing, that God himself is the source of life and joy and blessing, and Satan is the opposite of that. So the very idea of praying to the adversary for a blessing fails to recognize what exactly the adversary is really for and what he's trying to do. So instead, this is an example of so much of the neo-paganism that has arisen. These aren't serious pagans. The older pagans, like the true believers in Odin and Thor and Loki, they took their pagan faith very seriously. our modern day pagans are really just looking for an excuse to party. And this just seems like an attempt to be cute and controversial without actually being serious.
And then God sent a beautiful rainbow as a promise that he would never flood the world ever again. Isn't that wonderful? Miss Jormpus? Yes, Jimothy? Why did God have to send a flood? Why couldn't he just make the bad people nice? Well, he couldn't just make the people nice because it's very important to God that we all have free will. Yes, Jimothy. But if he wanted them to have free will, then why did he punish them like that? Well, Jimothy, actions have consequences. That's why you should only use your free will for good. Yes, Jimothy. So then it was more important for them to have their free will than to have their lives? I just don't get it. He wanted them to have choices, but then he sent a flood and took every choice away from them. Well, yes, but... And if God knows everything, then why did he even make Adam and Eve in the first place if he knew he was going to flood everyone? He could have just started with Noah, right, Miss Jorpus? I think God has his reasons, Jimothy. But we don't know those reasons? No, Jimothy. He works in mysterious ways, and we can't know why he does everything he does. Well, if we can't know why he does what he does, how do we know that his reasons are good? We are all out of time for questions today, but I hope you guys will come back next week so that we can go over how God impregnated Mary with himself.
Okay, this is the first of these TikTok videos that has been actually kind of funny. For starters, I kept being distracted from the logic by the ad on the side with the nails and the toothbrush. But let's go over three things in response to this. First off, the guy making this TikTok clearly does understand kind of the basic Christian responses to important things. He does correctly explain the idea of free will, but what he's missing in his explanation of free will is really the idea that God is love and is determined to have his creation be able to interact with him through love. That really becomes part of what's going on in the free will explanation. Without it, you really get a caricature of the Christian philosophical position. Now, the other thing that this student is missing is really the idea of the fullness of God's sovereignty. God was not taken by surprise when Adam and Eve sinned. He wasn't taken by surprise when people got so violent that the world was so full of violence and God repented from what he had made. He's not taken by surprise by any of that. He always knew that's what was going to happen. The plan was always that God would redeem all of creation through the incarnation, which is where this video is actually oddly going, though I will say it's a really weird Sunday school lesson that would ever try to bring up that particular language with kids.
I love how really dumb conservatives will get super mad at Onion posts like this and be like, I knew he was Antifa because he stands to the left of Donald in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. He tried to indoctrinate his son into being a trans pop star, tried to groom his son and his neoliberal Silicon Valley type friends into deep-throating the gay agenda. Despite them literally being from like Tampa and spending the entirety of their middle age being the worst kind of Disney adult.
Okay. There's all kinds of ways that lefties can make fun of conservatives when it comes to Disney, but this is a really bad way to do that. I mean, I watched a Goofy movie when I was a kid. I really enjoyed a Goofy movie. That was fun. That's not what the conservative response to Disney is really all about. I won't repeat that one here, but there's a ton of really good responses to why conservatives have decided that Disney is not actually making stuff for them, and they're just not going to participate. So really, this is kind of like some of the other videos I've been talking about. This is another very non-serious argument that's being made. All right, I think that is it for this reaction to TikTok videos. I want to thank the team for putting together some really interesting videos. I had not seen any of those before. And so I'm sure we'll be back doing this again sometime in the future. If you enjoyed any of these, please do check out The Optimistic Curmudgeon. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just search for The Optimistic Curmudgeon. Until next time, love the good, pursue the true, enjoy the beautiful.